Hello and welcome to Elecspo, and today we're heading 100 years into the future. The year is now 2121 and I'm going to go through all 20 of the current real day Premier League clubs and pick out an interesting fact about each of them. Some have had wild success, others have dropped out of the Football League completely. But what will be interesting about your club in 100 years time? Let's find out. Arsenal, 4-time Champions League winners. While in reality they just love to even make the group stages or even a qualifier, in 2121 Arsenal are 4-time winners of the UEFA Champions League. Here you can see on competitions they won the Champions League for the first time in 2053, and then there was a golden spell of 9 years where they won 4 out of 9 trophies. Incredible stuff from the Gunners, but they haven't won it since 2062. At least though they've been winning some trophies. The Premier League winners once again, they won that for the first time in 2058, the first time since the Invincibles. Even then they had a massive spell of dominance, winning 5 out of 6 years worth of Premier League trophies. They've also won Europa Leagues, FA Cups, even a few League Cups as well, and a Europa Conference League to boot. In reality, they aren't even in European football, but Arsenal fans, at least by 2053, you might get your hands on the big old European Cup. Probably not though, this is only Football Manager. Aston Villa went all the way down to League 2. While nowadays they're back in the Premier League and look pretty damn decent even without Jack Grealish, in this simulation over 100 years they went as low as Sky Bet League 2. They had successive relegations. They were in the Championship in 2062, year after they were relegated from League 1, and in 2064 they were in League 2, finishing 16th. Christ, they nearly went all the way down to the National League, for goodness sake. They've spent a long time in League 2, yo-yoing up and down between the 3rd and the 4th tier, and by 21-21 they still haven't returned to the Premier League. The last time they played in the Premier League was 2057. Brentford only ever survived once in the Premier League. While the Bees are in the top flight now and they've had a fairly steady start to life in the top flight, in this simulation over 100 years they've only survived once in the top flight, and even then they only just survived. That was in 2028. They came 17th, narrowly avoiding relegation. The season after they went straight down, coming rock bottom. They did return a few years later, but once they were back in the top flight, rock bottom again in 20th place. They had a massive hiatus from the top flight. They spent a long time in the Championship. They returned to the top flight in 2060, once again relegated straight away. They became a bit of a yo-yo club in the late 2080s, early 2090s. Same as always, only lasted a single season, and the last time they were in the Premier League was 21-16, where once again they came second bottom to be relegated to the Championship. Once again, they aren't even yo-yo clubs, they are just a team who are steady in the Championship and have had the odd promotion, but have never made any kind of impact in the Premier League. But I've got a sneaky feeling they'll probably survive this season in reality. Brighton, they have a new stadium that holds 54,832 people. Brighton have one of the biggest stadiums in England. Obviously there's some massive stadiums even before bigger stadiums were made that have been over this 100-year simulation. The likes of Old Trafford and the Emirates are bigger than this, but still this is a big stadium in England, and it's a stadium that has been seeing a lot of Championship football over the past 5 or 6 years. Literally every season they've been relegated from the Premier League, winning the Sky Bet Championship, relegated from the Premier League. Christ, every season in the Premier League, their past 4 attempts in the top flight, they have came 18th. And in the Sky Bet Championship, every single time they come straight back up as champions. Let's check the Brighton Stadium out. It was built in 2051, perfect pitch condition, and it holds 54,832 people. Their highest attendance was exactly that, 54,832 for a home game, obviously because we're talking about their stadium, against West Ham in the Premier League on the 29th of August 2116. So perhaps maybe your grandkids, Ben, your great grandkids, maybe they'll be there at that game. Who knows? That's a long way away, isn't it? Christ. Just think, By 2116, me and you'll be dead. Anyway, let's crack on with this lovely video. Burnley managed by Ansu Fati twice. Right, this isn't a massively exciting fact, but it's fairly interesting when you consider that Ansu Fati is only a bairn right now and he's just been given the number 10 shirt at Barcelona. In this simulation he ends up becoming a manager, and in 2041, on my birthday no less, he got given the Burnley job. He lasted 2 years and 225 days, didn't win a single trophy, and he was sacked on the 1st of March 2044. But that wasn't the end of his time with Burnley Football Club. He would return in 2057, spend another year at the club, didn't win anything, left on the 7th of January 2059 for a different job. That's quite interesting. Ansu Fati retired at the age of 36 as a player and retired as a coach at 77 years old. Burnley were one of the first clubs to give him a chance. He went from Wolves to Burnley and then he was Inter Milan manager. He spent a lot of time in England, even got the Scotland job. He's been Wigan, Leicester, Leeds, Reading. Ended his career as a scout for Southampton, but the only club he managed twice was plucky little Burnley. Chelsea named a stadium after Jadon Sancho. Unsurprisingly, Jadon Sancho is a club legend. I mean, it's only unsurprising because I've just told you they've named a stadium after him. If I was to just told you that randomly, you'd think, what on earth has he got to do with Chelsea? Clearly he signed for Chelsea, clearly he was brilliant, and now he is held in the same class as the likes of Frank Lampard, Peter Osgood, Zola, John Terry. But it's Jadon Sancho, the man who's got the incredible honour of having a stadium named after him. It holds 90,193 people, much bigger than the Brighton Stadium. They moved there in 2053. Unsurprisingly, it's perfect. But since they've been in there, they haven't won too many major trophies. They haven't won a Premier League since 2031, and they haven't won the Champions League since 2033. They have won FA Cups, they have won Europa Conference Leagues, but I mean, that's not very good for the Jadon Sancho Stadium, is it? At least they've won a few Community Shields though, that'll keep the ghost of Jose Mourinho happy. Crystal Palace dropped out of the Football League. For a lot of this time at the start of the simulation, Crystal Palace were a yo-yo club, up and down from the Premier League to the Championship, back and forth for years, until that stopped. The last time they were in the Premier League, 2049, they were relegated. Since then, they haven't been back in the top flight. But if you think that sounds bad, in 2064 they were actually relegated from League 2. They were dropped into the Vanarama National League. Fortunately for them, they only spent a season there, but that wasn't the end of Crystal Palace's journey in non-league football. They went there once again in 2069, spending 4 seasons in the National League. Crystal Palace have had a real demise over this past 100 years and have only just made it back to the Sky Bet Championship. All this, and they've still probably got the corpse of Wilfried Zaha flying down the wing doing stepovers and not passing the ball to anyone. Everton won the League Cup in 21-12. This is only interesting because it's a Rush album. If you haven't listened to Rush before, check them out, your dad probably likes them. 21-12, Everton won the Carabao Cup. The 1 year you want to win a trophy, 21-12. Fantastic. On top of that, they've won an FA Cup. And that's it. In a Europa Conference League. Quite sad for Everton actually. Let's move on. Leeds United paid £106 million for a player. In 2064, Leeds United smashed their transfer record and paid more than £100 million for literally just one player. That man was Billy Bell, arriving from Newcastle in the January transfer window. He was a Scottish striker. At Leeds, he scored 212 goals in 499 appearances, proving he was well worth the ridiculous fee that Leeds paid for him. He would go on to be a manager as well, and he even had 2 spells as the Leeds United boss. He was at some much bigger clubs as well. He went to Manchester City, he went to Tottenham, and he was also the Porto manager. Ended his career as a scout for Leeds and finally a scout for Liverpool. What is it with these coaches ending their careers as scouts? I mean, how boring is that? Actually, it's probably not that boring. You've just got to go and watch football and just say, he's quite good, go by him. Leicester City never finished in the top 4. Nowadays, Leicester are always challenging for Champions League football, but in 2 seasons in a row, they have absolutely bottled it. But they've got the players capable of finishing in the top 4. They just, they need to kick on. They need to get over that mental block. But over 100 years of this simulation, they have never finished in the top 4 of the Premier League. They've only spent 1 season out of the Premier League. They were only relegated once. Yet of all this time in the Premier League, they've never finished in a Champions League place. And even nowadays, if they finish 4th in 21-21, it still wouldn't be enough. As for the Premier League, they have lost one of their Champions League places, and only the top 3 get in Europe's premier competition. Liverpool, they left Anfield in 2049. No longer is one of the most historic grounds in English football, in fact world football. No longer does that exist in 21-21. Liverpool, they now play at the Harvey Wood Arena. Built in 2049, it holds 90,152 people, and that is the new home of Liverpool Football Club. They increased the capacity of Anfield a couple of times, first to 56,000 in 2027, then once again to 58,000 in 2042, but eventually they needed something bigger, they needed to get more fans inside the building, so they moved stadiums in 2049, and already it's been expanded again, 90,000 Liverpool fans, all under one roof. Sadly though, it is in Anfield. Then again, if it was Anfield in 2021-21, it would probably be a little bit rusty. Manchester City, who went 65 years without a Premier League title win. Never in the history of Manchester City have they gone so long for a Premier League title, a First Division title. They won their first in 1937, the next one came in 1968, 31 years later. After that it was from 68 to 2012. That's nothing compared to the gap they've just had. In 2055 they won their 15th First Division title. They didn't win another until 21-20. 65 years without a Premier League title. For all Man City are an absolute juggernaut now, they've stopped being a trophy winning machine. Champions League, they haven't won that since 2057. European Super Cup, haven't won since 2054. FA Cup, they won that in 2020. Before then, it was 2067 the last time they won it. While they're a machine right now, things have completely changed for Man City in 21-21, but at least it's not as bad as the days when they're actually in the Championship and just, fighting for survival. Manchester United, the most successful team in Premier League history. 57 times Man United have won the English Premier Division. 57 times they've won the First Division. The first in 1908, the most recent time in 21-18. No one has won it more times than Manchester United. 38 times they've been runners-up, 24 times they've came third. The first time they won it in this simulation was 2033. That was 20 years after they won it in Sir Alex Ferguson's final season. Since then, they've won it time and time again, getting to their grand total of 57. They are 3 titles off an incredible, unprecedented 60 First Division titles. No one can come close to Man United in terms of history right now. Newcastle United in the midst of an 85-year trophy drought. It has been 52 years in reality since Newcastle United won a trophy. That was in 1969, winning the European Fairs Cup. The last time they won a domestic trophy was the FA Cup in 1955. But their current trophy drought has got nothing on the one they're in 100 years into the future. They did end that trophy drought. They won the FA Cup in 2036. That was the last time they won a major trophy. It has been 85 years since the Magpies tasted major silverware, and by then they probably still haven't been taken over by the Saudis. Norwich City only survived once in the Premier League. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Norwich are a yo-yo club. They're not good enough for the Premier League, but at times they're far too good for the Championship. In 100 years, they haven't played a lot of Premier League football, but even when they have only survived once. That came right at the start of the simulation when they came 10th. That was the only time they finished outside of the bottom 3 in the Premier League. And to be honest, they're not even a yo-yo club nowadays. Most of the time they've been in League 1, they've even dropped down into League 2. Nowadays, they're still in League 1. They've been in League 1 for a while, nowhere near the dizzy heights of the Premier League. The last time they were in the Premier League was 2105, and after that it was... Christ, it's taken a long time. 2035. That's how long Norwich spent outside of the top flight. I mean, what was that, 70 years? Ridiculous, man. Although that is shorter than the amount of time Newcastle have gone without winning a trophy. Southampton never relegated from the Premier League. While Norwich have barely been in the top flight over the past 100 years, Southampton have literally never been relegated. Since we started this simulation 100 years into the future, Southampton have been in the top flight every single season. The best finish they had was in 2065 when they came fourth. The one time they made it into the Champions League, they had a golden period when they were pretty consistently being in the top half. From 2058 all the way until 2067, they finished between 4th and 9th, which is damn good, but the fact they have never been relegated from the Premier League in so long is quite frankly ludicrous. Tottenham Hotspur no longer massive losers. In 100 years time, Tottenham have finally started winning some trophies. Here's some numbers for you: 4 Champions Leagues, 8 Premier League titles, 9 FA Cups, plus multiple more trophies won by Tottenham Hotspur over the past 100 years. They even won an FA Cup in 2022, which means poor old Harry Kane might have got himself a little winner's medal. Their last Premier League title was in 2103, their 10th of all time. Watford won their first ever major trophy. While Tottenham are finally back to winning trophies and are no longer a laughingstock, Watford have literally only just in the past few years, won their first ever major trophy in their history. In 2118, Watford won the FA Cup. They've been runners-up 4 times. They were runners-up in the Premier League. They were runners-up in the Carabao Cup in 2084. But in 2118, for the first time in the Hornets' history, Watford won a major trophy. Christ, Elton John will be looking down thinking, fantastic, finally, he's playing a little happy song on his piano with his weird little voice that he's got now because he's a bit past it, thinking, finally, Watford have won a trophy. West Ham won 5 Premier League titles in a row. Yes, you heard me correctly, West Ham United won 5 Premier League titles back to back. The first was in 2076, they did it in 77, 78, 79 and 2080. 5 titles in a row. That is quite frankly absolutely ridiculous. They've even got Champions League finals before there in 2073 and 74. They were the Club World Championship winners in 2077. And they also won a European Cup in that time. They won the Europa League in 2075. The 2070s was a golden era for West Ham, and an era we'll probably never see ever again, and won't ever see because this is the future and a computer game, so not real. Sorry West Ham fans, pretty good though, 5 titles in a row, good on yous. Wolves, no Portuguese players. Yes, 100 years into the future, it looks like the Portuguese revolution at Molineux is over. The only foreign players they've got one Dutchman and a Greek guy who's called Ron Twig, which is quite a good little name. Wolves are down in League One, just looking back at the times when they used to have the likes of Ruben Neves, Jaume Coutinho, Rui Patricio, George Mendes literally sending anyone who's half decent in Portuguese to Molineux. Nowadays, they can't even get out of the 3rd tier of English football. So there we have it, that is the end of the video. That is an interesting fact about every Premier League club 100 years into the future according to Football Manager 2021. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Elecspo. And until next time, we will see you around.